Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, the new All-American Selection winners have come out. Now, there was some earlier ones that came out. They sort of gave you a tasting of three kinds, but there are a lot more. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and give you the 2018 All-American Selection Flower winners. Now, the first one I'd like to do is Canna South Pacific Orange. This one is excellent in the fact that it's got long, outstanding bloom color. And that's really what it's all about. It is a pollinator for gardens, so it will attract pollinators. It is from seed and not from tubers, which means that you're not carrying over a lot of disease, which means it's also a little easier and cheaper to store. And some people don't store them. And this has always been a problem with canna. They don't store them and don't want to start them in February and get them growing in order to get them big enough. So this from seed is going to be excellent. So, Canna South Pacific Orange. Now, it is a seeded type. It is from Tacky. The closest ones that I have grown, actually, is the Canova Orange shade. Now, this Canna was, of course, one of the newer seeded ones. And that's the closest there is to this new one, okay? The hardiness zone I'll do, but it's zone 8, which just means, forget it, it's an annual, okay? Does need full sun. It needs a fair amount of water, never excessive. It does not need to be dead-headed, which is really a great thing. A lot of the older cannas, particularly from tubers, you need to really deadhead in order to prevent seed and to get it going. It doesn't need to be staked. Most cannas don't. The other ones with the things about this one is that it's, of course, upright. It's dark green. It blooms all summer. It's an orange. And the bloom size is 4.5 inches across. The height can be anywhere from 15 to 52 inches. And I'm not sure what determines the average height here, unless it is fertilization. And of course, maybe the heat and lots of sunlight. It's the only thing I can think of. It is good in containers, which is excellent. This is another one. You can use it in the center of a large container, put other plants around it, and have it bloom all the time. It is tolerant of heat and rain. On average, you will space this out 18 to 24 inches between plants. It can be used as a divider for medium to tall backgrounds, depending on the amount of water. It can be used as a marginal and in water gardens or in containers on the edge of a water garden as well, which is unusual. Now, the other thing about this one is that you sow this one indoors, and you need to do it in mid to late February in a decent growing medium. Just lightly cover the seed and water them in. Maintain a temperature of 68 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that is going to be your soil temp. When the seedlings are large enough to handle, you transplant them into individual pots. This could be done in handling the seed by doing in smaller pots and doing it that way. And then as they grow and they're large enough to transplant, you just pot them up into larger plants. It works very well. The judges really liked this one because they thought it was an excellent pollinator plant. they thought that the whole color, the very bright colored orange, it's going to be very attractive in the garden. So I think you'll find that it's going to be a canna that you can grow in your garden, either as a compact border plant or in a large container. I think you'll like this one. I really do. The color is spectacular, and I can see why the judges found it. With the dark green foliage and the bright orange flowers, all the different flowers are like 4.5 inches across. It is excellent as well. So please go and take a look at this one. I think you'll find that it's going to be a little shorter than from what I have seen, and blooms quite early as well. So you want to start it in February as recommended. Okay, now that's so important. Now, what you also want to do is go and the next one is Caffea Flora Gloria Diana. This is a ornamental vegetative winner, which means it's not done from seed. It is known as Mexican heather, which has been around a long time. Mexican heathers, but they were always used more as a indoor plant, just to give you color. Not very common and not very popular. This plant, though, is going to be good for borders, mass plantings, and containers, which is a really good thing. The judges loved this one because it has larger flowers. Now, there's a lot of small flowers on these, which is excellent. The color is magenta. The foliage is dark green, and I think you're going to find that it's a compact plant, long time flowering, heat and weather tolerance, and it's 10 to 12 inches across. So what that means is that it's going to be very popular in hanging baskets, and I think that's one of the ones that I think is going to make it so popular. You're going to find it long lasting in containers or in mixed containers and still be good. It doesn't need to be deadheaded, which is good. Its watering needs are dry to normal, and it's drought tolerant. Great. We can, at least save on watering. Full sun, yes. Obviously, you're never going to stake this one because it really isn't. It's very compact. It's only 10 to 12 inches. It blooms in late spring, summer to frost, and the bloom size is only like 1/3 of an inch across, but there's so many of them. And it has this natural mounded shape of the plant with the glossy green foliage. I think you're going to like this one. It does do extremely well in containers. It is pollinator friendly, drought, heat, and rain and wind tolerant. The spacing, if you're going to plant this out in the garden, is 16 to 18 inches. Hanging baskets, low edging can be done as well. I think that I have a spot, if I want, that I could use this as a low edging on one border, where in the past I've always put the garden calanchos, which gave me continual color as well, and looks very different with the different type of succulent foliage. I think this one might be a good little difference, add a little change to the garden. It is a divider and could be used as a divider between, let's say, sections of the garden. I'm thinking more towards knot-type gardens. Now, it's not going to be hardy, but it is going to be interesting. It's going to be excellent because of its ability for long bloom pots and baskets and heat tolerance, and I think you're going to like this one. The judging on these ones was done in September, so we know that they're going to do very well later on in the season as well. And still, the flowers are double, which makes it that much nicer looking flowers. And I think you're going to go and enjoy this one in your garden. Now, the next one is another AAS winner, and it's Gypsophila or Gypsophilia, whichever you decide you're going to go and, of course, pronounce it. It's Gypsy White Improved. Now, it's a semi-double blossom. It's the very bright white, okay? Semi-double means that it's got extra petals, which means that the flowers are really going to be a little thicker and stand out. There's prolific flowering on it. It's going to appear as a white mound in your garden. A lot of the old Gypsophilia was very sort of tall, leggy, that type of thing. Good for cutting. It's not invasive, okay? And I think you're going to like the way this one works. It is commonly known, of course, as baby's breath, which is something that, everybody loves. The fact that it's hardy to zone 10 means that it's not going to be very hardy here at all. It's annual. Full sun to partial sun, which is good. Watering needs is normal, which just means it needs regular watering. Deadheading is no, and staking is no, which is a good thing right there. The mound height is 10 inches. The bloom time is spring and summer. Of course, white, and each bloom is only like 2/10 of an inch. Small, but still semi-double and prolific. Spacing for this one is 12 to 18 inches. It's very tolerant of wind. It's pollinator friendly, and you can use it in containers and hanging baskets as a low edger or even as a ground cover, which makes this really quite interesting. Now, to start this one, you want to sow about 8 to 10 seeds in very well drained medium, lightly covered with vermiculite, and maintain a temperature of about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Celsius. After germination, provide high light and lightly fertilize it just to maintain green and healthy seedlings. The seedlings are ready to be transplanted when they're about 4 to 5 weeks old. Make sure that in the bright conditions while you're growing this on that it does receive sufficient moisture and may actually need, if it's in a sunny window or sunny location, afternoon shade. But you'll find that afternoon shade is more of a concern when you're planting it outdoors. In other words, dappled sun might just work very well. Slow release fertilizers at very low rates, okay, or liquid fertilizers. What you're trying to avoid is excess salts. So the Gypsophilia, like all of them, are sensitive to the excess salts. They do not like drought, so your watering should be consistent, and they will not recover well from wilt or stress from lack of water. So these are things that you should know if you're going to be successful. Everybody liked this one. It's a little harder to grow, but what they really liked was the fact that it was a semi-double and gave you that outstanding blooms in white. I think you're going to like that much better than some of the other Gypsophilia in the old gardens. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.